On the morning Mount Vesuvius erupted, Pompeii's wealthiest baker, Terentius Neo, made a decision that cost him his life. He locked himself inside his bakery to guard his grain. But his tragic end was actually preserved in one of antiquity's most famous portraits, showing a refined businessman who thought he was destined for local politics, not a volcanic tomb. To understand why Terentius stayed behind while the earth shook, we have to look at the immense value of what he was protecting. In the Roman world, grain was not just food. It was currency, political influence, and the absolute foundation of urban survival. Terentius had risen from humble beginnings, likely starting life as a freed slave who built his fortune from the ground up. His bakery on the Via dell'Abbondanza was a massive commercial enterprise, boasting multiple heavy lavastone mills to grind wheat. Every single day, his workers pushed these heavy stone mills to produce thousands of loaves of bread for the hungry citizens of Pompeii. This constant supply of bread made Terentius one of the most influential and recognizable men in the entire city. In fact, archaeologists found political graffiti painted on his bakery walls, endorsing candidates and cementing his status as a kingmaker. The famous portrait of Terentius and his wife shows him holding a papyrus scroll, symbolizing his literacy, education, and public standing. His wife is depicted holding a stylus and wax tablet, proving that she was a highly active partner in managing their massive bakery business. By late August in 79 AD, Terentius had reached the absolute peak of his financial and social success. But then, on a seemingly normal afternoon, Mount Vesuvius began to unleash a terrifying black cloud of ash and pumice into the sky. While thousands of terrified citizens immediately dropped everything and fled toward the sea, Terentius hesitated. In his eyes, fleeing meant leaving his life savings completely unguarded against looters and rival merchants. His grain vaults were filled with precious grain, and his brick ovens were stocked with hundreds of freshly baked loaves. To leave was to face financial ruin. Terentius made the calculated choice to stay, barricading his bakery and locking up his massive metal-reinforced vaults. He believed the stone walls of his bakery and the heavy wooden doors would protect his fortune from the falling ash. He likely thought this eruption was a temporary disturbance that would pass in a few hours, leaving him ahead of his competitors. But he completely miscalculated the sheer, unprecedented scale of the volcanic cataclysm. As the weight of the falling pumice grew, the roof of his grand bakery began to groan and buckle under the immense pressure. The exits were rapidly blocked by a rising tide of volcanic stones, trapping Terentius inside his own fortress. He was now sealed inside the very building that had generated his incredible wealth. Outside, the midday sky turned pitch black, illuminated only by the terrifying glow of volcanic lightning. But the worst was yet to come, as Vesuvius entered its most lethal phase, the pyroclastic surges. Superheated clouds of gas, ash, and rock began tearing down the slopes of the mountain at hundreds of miles per hour. When the first surge slammed into Pompeii, it instantly vaporized or suffocated everything in its path, including anyone hiding indoors. Terentius Neo, huddled beside his beloved grain vaults, stood absolutely no chance of survival. The extreme heat of the pyroclastic surge preserved the bakery in a perfect, horrifying snapshot of that fateful day. When archaeologists excavated his bakery centuries later, they found 81 carbonized loaves of bread still sitting inside his massive oven. These loaves were still stamped with Terentius's personal baker's seal, designed to guarantee the weight and quality of his product. The seal that once proved his elite status now served as a tragic marker of his final, fatal mistake. Just down the street, his famous wall portrait survived the immense heat, buried deep beneath yards of protective volcanic ash. This preservation created a stark, haunting contrast between his painted, living face and his sudden, violent death. For nearly 2,000 years, Terentius and his wife looked out at the world with calm, confident eyes, completely unaware of their impending doom. Their portrait has become one of the most famous symbols of Roman daily life, representing the triumph of the self-made merchant. Yet behind those painted eyes lies a chilling reminder of how quickly human ambition can be erased by the unpredictable forces of nature. Terentius Neo built an empire of bread, only to be buried by the very ashes that preserved his memory for eternity. The story of Terentius Neo reveals that the citizens of Pompeii were not just nameless victims of a natural disaster. They were ambitious, wealthy individuals with businesses, reputations, and fortunes that they simply could not bear to abandon.